Hello, everybody, and welcome in. The SFA Season 16 transfer portal is now closed. Another great year with some great winners, some funny losers and voids, and a lot of great storylines. So, this video is just showcasing the transfer portal results, and this should be the last YouTube video posted before we switch over to season 17 branding, which should come in the next couple of days. So let's go through it. I'll point out a couple of things that I found interesting, and yeah, we'll get ready for a great season 17 here in the SFA. So Maryland, they did get voided day one, but then they came around, got a couple of guys in the next day. Highest amount went to Ross Jackson this year from USC. DJ Satterfield, just like his brother, headed to the Mountain West. Texas State getting another ECU player. And UNC doing their thing like they always do. Demetrius Cannon never got the starting job in Florida. Headed to USC. Going to be the Cookie Fets next man up. The former Bust is headed to Maryland. Iowa State gets their tight end back. Spraggins heads to Texas Tech. And they also get Jesse Jetster, the possession guy from Michigan. Jaquez Shady goes to USC as well. Eastern Michigan gets only one tight end. Bit of a disappointing portal for Bob Toledo. Rudy Rollins, one of the best running backs in the class, former Gen, heads to Ohio. Patrick Reynolds headed to North Texas. D-Sleep definitely hoping he progresses mightily. Thunderpants going from Ohio State to Michigan. Maurice Gregory also headed to Michigan, so that right side of the line is going to be held down for the next couple of years. Team of the Year guy headed to UNLV. Boise gets a tackle. The punter headed to Fresno. UNLV gets a CPU middle linebacker to develop. And Damon McCreamy heads to Kent State. So Coach Blazing gets himself a wide receiver for quarterback McKenna Hawk. Tonda to Texas Tech. Zen Cage to USC. This one was a little bit weird, but to each their own. Oklahoma State gets a corner. Finn Fisher, so new coach Calv gets himself a quarterback of the future. That one will be fun. Hams McGillis goes to Kent, and Washington State grabs the rival tight end. Another Team of the Year guy going to UNLV. And who I thought was the best player in the portal headed to the team that just made the national championship. So North Carolina is not going anywhere, folks. AJ Stevens goes to rival Oklahoma State. Auburn gets the 7-footer, 300-pounder Bourbon Boozin. Beef McWhatnow headed to Ole Miss. Artie Smart headed to Iowa State. Fresno getting Will Sweeten. He stays in the Mountain West, a very underrated guy just because he was on a no-name school. And this one will also be interesting as well. They're boosting up the secondary. Peely on his third team in 3 years headed to Syracuse. Wyatt Germ, Team of the Year guy, headed to Penn State. And the kicker headed to Indiana. Kizzy Crosby, LA Tech. Another offensive lineman headed to Penn State. And Coach Mike doing what he does, grabbing offensive linemen like they're candy. Gibby Gerbacks headed to San Diego State. Feenster headed to Iowa State, secondary player for Schwartz. Sokolov headed to Nebraska. Iowa gets their successor to Gloop. It's McNutt. We already knew this one. Ari Kazumba, the tampered player. Sean Martin, bit of a disappointing portal for NC State, but we'll see if Sean Martin can help him out. Wade Tweedy, star wide receiver, his third team in 3 years, headed to Penn State. And they got a new quarterback, Levi Kazaruni, day 3 guy. See what he can do. Huck Hammer, the former #1 recruit, going to Michigan. Laszlo Spangler, another Kent State guy. Iowa gets another secondary piece. And former raffle player goes to McNasty in San Diego State. Kamel Farley headed to Wyoming. Hamsol reunites with Kenzie at Rutgers. Syracuse gets a guard. Thorne goes to Troy. Craig Jeffries, nobody offered him, so he got wheel spun to TCU. He is the projected starter. Tehu Nakamoto headed to Notre Dame. And Coach Huey. Bengston Graves beefing up that North Carolina team. And this is one of my favorite moves of the portal. You got a coach that I feel like gets over criticized, and then you got a SFA quarterback that was stuck on a bad roster. So I think that Keon Parks could definitely help out Coach Nathan. I'm really excited to see how this one goes. Tobin Dashnaw to Syracuse. Ohio gets a deep threat. It really seems like Ohio is gearing for one last ride with Nolan Figgs to try and push him over the hump to actually win the MAC championship for once. Rock Captain headed to Arizona. Fifi Hobson to Michigan. Ferris Nesby was recruited by McNasty at Central Michigan and now follows him to San Diego State. Champaign goes to Ole Miss. Jay Jones headed to Auburn. Fernando Jose going to Cal with Coach Ron. Oh boy, Cal is going to be a wagon. And Tyrone Easley, the Yams legend, headed to UNC. Jackson Arroyo goes back to Nebraska. Boogie Shamar goes to Oregon State. Shabari O'Toole to Arizona. Punter to LA Tech. Uncle Boozer, his third team, headed over to Nebraska. Nico McMotors going to Minnesota. Zuma to Washington State. Cal gets a safety. And the other guy who didn't get an offer, Arkansas State, Eddie Wilkins, former freshman All-American. He's headed to Arkansas. He is the projected starter there as well. Avi Santana goes to Arizona. Arizona beefing up the secondary. And Kira Streaker, the number one player in the portal, goes to Minnesota and Coach Rick. Maxidro Sue, former Team of the Year player, led the country in sacks. He goes to Nebraska. Marie Zirkelbach goes to Boise. Jono Rivers goes to Minnesota as well. So two high-level running backs headed to Minnesota. G goes to LA Tech. Peppercorn, once again, going to Ohio, helping them out. SMU gets Wandale Hootie. So they've taken now two quarterbacks from Troy in this cycle. Laz Palmer head to LA Tech. That is a monster move. And Thrasher is headed to Cal and Coach Ron. Oh, man, Cal is going to be good for a long, long time. Cade McKinstry goes to Maryland. Chase Smith to Auburn. Harry Jones to Syracuse. Jerry Johnson goes to North Texas, kind of bailing them out. That was a must-get. And that will do it. So that's all of the transfers, folks. Thank you guys so much for watching and participating. And next time you'll see us will be when we release the new branding for Season 17.